Hey, thanks for meeting me here again as we continue to go through the book of Proverbs together. Proverbs chapter 20 is where we are. And I have a question to ask you that I think will help you determine and help kind of be a litmus test to ask whether or not you are aging in wisdom, growing in wisdom. And here's the question: how well are you aging? Now, before we get sidetracked, we don't want to think that this question of determining how well we are aging pertains to our beauty or our health or finances or whatever it is, because often we are neurotic about aging well, of looking good as we get old. But ask the question: how well are you aging in wisdom? Look what the Bible says in Proverbs 20:29. The glory of young men is their strength, but the splendor of old men is their gray hair. Do you consider it to be splendor that you're growing in age and growing in wisdom? Can it be said of you that it is in great splendor that you are getting gray hair and growing older in wisdom? And here's the way we begin to ask that question and wonder that is do you take into account the purposes in your own heart? Listen to what it says in verse 5. The purpose in a man's heart is like deep water, but a man of understanding will draw it out. So a man of wisdom will seek to draw out the purposes in their heart. And the purpose is to determine whether or not what they are doing is aging well. So it's asking the question, what are the motives of what you are doing? And do you consider your motives and your actions today and consider how they will age in the time to come? Here's what I mean by that. Listen to what it says in verse 4. The sluggard does not plow in autumn. He will seek at harvest and have nothing. So you understand what it's saying there is that the one who is lazy, his purpose is today is laziness, and that's going to produce nothing in the future. And so the wise person considers their work ethic today. The wise man considers what they will do today and the effect that it will have on them tomorrow, next week, next year, or in the decades to come. The wise man will consider how their actions today will age in the future. Listen to what it says in verse 7. The righteous who walks in his integrity, blessed are his children after him. And so the wise man considers, as they age well, considers how they treat their kids today, how they try to teach them the ways of the Lord, how they try to teach them ways of wisdom, how they walk in their family life, how that's going to affect their children today, a week to come, a month, a year, and decades to come. Look at verse 17. Bread gained by deceit is sweet to a man, but afterward his mouth will be full of gravel. And so the gain that you're seeking today may seem sweet, but will you wake up a week, a month, a year, a decade from now and be chewing on gravel? The wise man asks the Lord to search his heart, consider his purposes, to draw that out of them so that their actions today will be done from proper motives, fearing the Lord, and will age well so that when they come to having gray hair, it'll be a time of splendor. Now, when I get to this point, I find in my own self, it becomes easy to become neurotic. Because my heart's not always pure, right? It says it right here. Verse 9, who can say, I have made my heart pure, I am clean from my sin? So we understand that we're still in process of being purified by the Lord. And so it sometimes almost makes me neurotic saying, God, I don't always know my intentions. I'm not perfect, and sometimes I have imperfect intentions that I don't even intend to have. And it makes me nervous how what I will do today will age in the time to come. Suppose I make a mistake. I'm not always wise in drawing those things out of my heart. Well, I think the reason the Proverbs is telling us this, who can make their heart clean, is we come to this point where we must cast ourselves upon the grace and mercy of God and say, God, examine my heart. See if there's any unrighteous way in me. See if there's any unclean thing in me, and I cast myself upon you. That even when I act wrongly, God, I trust your grace to make it right. And so when we ask this question, are you aging well? You can really ask the question, are you casting yourself upon the grace and mercy of God and say, only you can make my heart clean. Only you can make my motives clean. God, I want what I do today to be wise in a way that will produce fruit in generations to come. God, I want to age well, and I can only do it by your grace and mercy. The wisest people who are aging the best are those who daily cast themselves upon the grace of God and say, only you can make my heart clean. How well are you aging?